Good afternoon, Jen. How are you?
Hello, Etienne. I'm very well. Thank you. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you
I'm
for.
even better. I'm even better because it is like 32 above and summer in Ottawa, and I love that.
Well, thank you for making time for me today. I've been meaning to interview you for a while about some of the work that you have done in some of your previous assignments, because I think there was interesting findings that you came across, and I want to tap into your knowledge and discover what it's about. So
Wow, thank you. I didn't think I had much to offer in terms of expertise, but I'm pleased to lend you, like, offer it away if I can. If I can
Perfect.
support, that'll be great. Thank you for that. That's great.
Well, can you provide a bit of context for us to so that we understand what you worked on in your previous assignment when you looked at modern learning? What was the mandate that you were given?
Right. So I've had a couple of assignments. So you and I were both federal public servants, and I am a Canada free agent. And as a free agent, I have the privilege, I suppose, of working on a variety of um, projects, like temporary projects, short-term projects with an end goal. And the majority of the projects or assignments that I've been involved in have been around modernization and specifically the future of HR and the future of learning. So when I think back to some of my assignments, my two previous assignments when dealing with modern learning, it was really about, first of all, well, from the HR perspective, I was looking at from an organizational perspective and from the perspective of the employees. And a lot of the assignments, and one of my greatest missions as I'm working as a free agent in the federal public service, it is to modernize the federal public service and transform it to be high performing and highly productive.
Okay.
And so when I look at high performing and highly productive, I look to learning, because learning is one of these illusory type metrics or measures, I guess, if you will. And there's millions and millions and millions of dollars, corporate dollars, spent on learning, and very little metrics or data put around the learning to qualify whether the training has been effectively used, or is that the right word,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to, yeah, I suppose so, yeah, whether those training dollars were effective in um, allowing employees to translate their time away from the office, the time spent on the learning activity itself, and be able to translate that into performance on the job. So there's a lot of HR futurists, and also modern learning experts are really looking at being able to qualify the time spent away, the time spent on dollars, and be able to qualify that and translate that into performance on the job, and being able to contribute to the mandate of the organization. And one of the ways, so it seems as though the trend to learning, a lot of people, like, especially in this day and age when it's all short bites,
Mm-hmm.
short
Yeah.
5-minute, 10-minute bites of information. And so that's a trend. The other trend is learning in the flow of life and work.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, learning in the flow of life and work? Well, that typically means if you are a commuter, then you can pick up your phone or your tablet if you're commuting on the train or bus, and you can source out some learning activity that will support you in your job at hand. So that the trend primarily right now is learning when you need it, as you need it, on demand.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it is centered around technology. A lot of learning is going to be on technology. And like we do this learning in the flow of life all the time, especially nowadays. I mean, people do this if they want to know how to fix a particular component on their car engine. Everybody goes to YouTube. If I want to know how to prepare a particular dish, well, I just go to Instagram or again to YouTube or whatever and find that recipe and follow it along. So there's learning in the flow of life. Now, similarly, learning in the flow of work also can happen in that, I can give you an example right now. So if you're looking to write a briefing note on a particular subject, like especially in an area that I'm not exactly familiar in, like I have a strong HR background. And if I'm being asked to write a briefing note, say on what is the impact of the oil fields on migratory animals. Oh, that's a very controversial and touchy subject. I'm sorry. Should I not mention that?
Go ahead.
But
Go ahead. Keep
the thing
going.
is, the thing is though, is I'm going to go and research that when I need it. I'm going to watch YouTube videos, or I'm going to consult white papers, or go speak with Aboriginal people, and that all fuels my learning. And I can then take that information, all of those learning activities, and translate them, integrate them into my current knowledge, and be able to synthesize it and analyze it and interpret it, and then write my briefing note, for
Was
example.
was the pun intended by when you said fuel your learning?
Oh, I suppose so. Yes, of course it was.
So in your last assignment, what were you asked to do specifically? What was the expectation for you to reach?
So the expectation, um, it is to take a look at where the learning is currently, where the learning is going in a particular, where the future of learning is going, and where are the gaps. And in doing so, what I had to do, or what I was asked to do, was then create a learning maturity model, so that the organization had a sense of where they were and what they needed to do to get to a high performing learning organization. And so it's a 5-stage learning maturity model. And on the left-hand side, there was about 13 different elements. And a
Can
lot
you
of those elements,
can you
sorry?
give us a couple of example of what would be an element?
Yes. So one of those elements is there executive support for learning and training activities?
Okay. Yeah.
And another one is about what was the other one now? Does the organization employ profession capability frameworks?
Okay. Yeah.
Another one is like the Is the learning activities integrated with the corporate and employee performance management?
Okay, I get you.
So those kinds of elements, right?
Yeah.
And so the other part is too, is the learning and training dictated by the mandates of the organization or is it more employee driven,
Okay. Yeah.
the learning request? So things like that. And then on this 5-stage model, you could see there were different, what would that be called? Definitions, if it were. Like it explains what an organization on this element, say on the employee-driven learning, what does a stage 2 organization look like at that element?
So some kind of indicator.
Versus, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's an indicator that's spelled out, right? And then it goes up to stage 5, which is a high-performing learning organization, an HPLO, or it's also considered a high-impact learning organization, HIPLO.
Okay, so an organization can rate differently on the 13 elements.
Yes.
They can be at different levels of maturity. Okay.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, so that's what I did in my last assignment. I'm not sure how the organization was able to or is currently using that that maturity model, but similar maturity model I had to do for a previous assignment where we looked at the whole people management function as a whole. And primarily we looked at the future of learning and modern learning, and it was primarily about how the organization delivers learning. Or does it deliver learning? Does the organization curate learning? Does the organization leverage various social media platforms for engaging employees in learning activities on the job? And and how they use that data. And so again, it was a maturity model also, but it was more looking at an organizational perspective and a workplace perspective.
What do you see as some of the benefits for an organization to implement such a maturity model for learning?
I think it's definitely going this way. The workplaces, corporations, institutions as a whole is going this way. Even academia is going this way. What the benefits are is this maturity model really shows where an organization currently is, the measures that they have to take incrementally to achieve or attain a stage 5 learning maturity model, high performing, high impact learning organization. So I think such a maturity model with various elements, I think the elements can be picked, you can pick and choose the elements that you really want to measure and that you want to use as strong metrics to help you progress to attaining that high impact, high performing learning organization or high maturity model.
What's your sense of where some of the public service organization or private sector organization, we can go either way, depending on what you've read, the case studies that you might have come across, but which of these elements present a higher level of maturity on the part of our organization, and where are there bigger gaps?
Well, I think there's a tremendous gap. It's massive. It's like what do you call that big gaping what do you call that big hole? Anyway, huge gap in the public service. A crevice, a huge crevice,
yeah.
because it's Because primarily in the public service, are learning a lot of it is coming from the Canada School. And I think the Canada School is definitely progressing, but right now, learning at the school, when it's in-person learning, it's not a lot. There's more and more, I suppose, is going online and on demand, but it's not, the level of learning is not there yet to be able to, for employees to find that kind of value to translate that learning activity into performance on the job. And part of the problem right now is that a lot of Canada School learning is in person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on a schedule, pretty much on the Canada School schedule, as opposed to when the employee needs it. So if an employee recognizes that there is a gap in their current capability to meet a current request of the manager, right now, an employee might have to wait anywhere from 2 to 8 months to get on this course at the Canada School. So that's what's happening. So that that kind of a gap, that time lag, does not support a high performing, highly productive organization, right? Work environment.
So what would be a more interesting alternative?
Right now, what's happening is there's a lot more courses that are on demand. So there's incredible course platforms out there, university platforms out there, such as LinkedIn Learning, Harvard Managed Mentor, Coursera, any of those kinds of, even the MOOCs, is it called?
Mm-hmm.
Massive online open university and colleges, something like this.
Yep.
Anyway, those have multiple courses. They're all online. They're available on demand, and it's highly skills based. So it's less knowledge transfer and more understanding where the learner is in terms of their learning journey, learning experience journeys, or just their learning journey on a particular topic, and then taking them from a novice or wherever they're at in that stage to being an expert. And it's all done through skills development and skills application. So there's that whole continuum for having no idea of what a topic is to moving along that continuum to absolute mastery, and then being able to mentor others and implement it into your work. And what's happening now is that in a lot of more sophisticated, technologically sophisticated and digitally capable organizations, the learning and training platforms are connected with the performance management platforms, and the managers are also able to assign work and assign tasks in terms of outcomes, and then be able to connect the employees, like understand where the employees' gaps are in terms of their knowledge, and be able to recommend learning activities to bridge that gap so that they can produce on the job and be high performing and add value, and then contribute to not only the manager's mandate, but the unit's mandate and the organization's mandate as a whole. And what's happening, what the future is showing is that managers will be able to actually go in, like, so the training institution or the platform that is offering such a course can define assignment. The employee does the assignment on the training platform. The manager is sent a notification that the employee has completed this module, has performed this assignment in the learning environment, and the manager is then asked to convert that assignment to an on-the-job activity, and then the manager can verify that the employee has in fact met the requirements of that assignment on the job, as well as from the learning institution standpoint. And then there's a credential there. So the employee is now credentialed by the school and verified by the manager, and the level of expertise is shown. Right, and it's now moving from an self-professed competency or capability to now verifiable and credentialed, like it's certified credentialing.
And are there certain type of skills or certain type of knowledge where this is easier to apply?
Certain types of skills and knowledge that is easier to apply. Well, so a lot of the knowledge transfer is going to come from books, and the more real practical application of skills is going to come from the real world environment and the platform kind of sandbox environment, the learning platform sandbox environment. So some of those skills might be, like, for example, the computer coding. I think we can verify the computer coding from a manager and from a learning perspective. Also, like from a briefing note perspective, like in terms of being able to concisely and precisely convey information.
Okay.
So that kind of thing. The other trend, what is really big right now, is that there's a lot of AI happening. So artificial intelligence and automated intelligence, is that the right word? Anyway, so it's happening right now in Microsoft 365. And Microsoft, it's going to come to this point where if Microsoft recognizes that you have been, like, it'll scan your subject area of your briefing note, for example, and it will recognize some of the sites that you've been visiting, be able to link that subject with the sites, the research sites, and then it might also recommend, well, hey, we recognize that you're writing a briefing note on the impact of oil fields on migratory animals. We would like to recommend this this white paper or this research paper put out by this company, and here's the abstract.
Okay.
And then you can just click on that abstract and read it, and then get the full article with just a click also, and then download that citation right into your briefing note. So if it makes sense, if you can interpret the information in there to feed into your briefing note or this kind of thing. So that's how AI is happening. This is how modern learning is going to it's going to fuel our greater productivity, and it's also going to be great validated and verified through the manager's I guess kind of requirements, and then the school's requirements, this learning platform requirements. What's also happening is that's interesting is in the UK, you and I have talked about this, but in the UK, they are big into the profession capability frameworks.
Yeah.
It's very big in the UK civil service. I forget what it's called in the UK civil service. At any rate, so professions have to identify the different levels and identify, like, from a novice, a beginner, to middle manager, right up to senior advisor, and then perhaps even a director or whatever, right? So all the different levels along in that profession, and then be able to identify what the capabilities are for at each level. So an employee that is, say, a junior, not a novice, but perhaps a junior analyst will be at this level and is expected to perform or have these capabilities, perform these skills. And then it also sets out what are the requirements at future levels, so that it's very, very clear that path, that career path, and the learning the path is, it's all spelled out. It's very clear that what the gaps are in terms of an employee's skills and knowledge, what they need in terms of training and mentorship, and even skills like on the job tasks,
Yeah.
to be able to bring them to a higher level capability. So going away is the competency-based assessments, and we're moving to more profession capability assessments.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As you research this topic, the maturity models for learning and high performance evaluation,
Mm-hmm.
has any of your beliefs changed along the way as you uncover new information and new trends?
I think what I used to think, well, because I'm a university graduate, not only at a bachelor's level, but also at a master's degree level. And I was so married to the concept and to the notion and the idea that, there's nothing can match a university degree. But now that I'm out in the real world, and also recognizing where learning is happening and where even the primary schools and the public school systems and the universities are going, I think that universities are going to be obsolete. Just in that they're not providing the value any longer for candidates to come out of their programs ready and skilled to jump into a career or into a job. And I think I've really had to adjust my understanding and my notion of what is really education.
Mm-hmm.
And really the way what's happening now, it's happening in the States, in the United States, and I believe it has been happening in Europe for a long while. But it's developing this learning ecosystem, and it's a modern learning ecosystem in terms of learning begins very young. I mean, we learn how to walk. We're learning how to talk. We're learning how to eat and how to cut our food. And like, learning happens in every day of every moment of every day. Learning does not stop just because you get a piece of paper that says you're ready for the world, and which is such a big falsehood. And I was not prepared for the real world, to tell you the honest truth. But so what's happening is that this learning ecosystem is happening right from the very, very primary schools, preschools, primary schools. And it's less about desk learning and book learning and the teacher as the transferer of knowledge. What's going to be happening, and what I've come to accept, is that the teacher is merely a resource, another resource. And the teacher in the classroom setting at even like a childhood level as well as at a workplace level, that instructor or whatever, it's a facilitator more so, as a learning facilitator, really helps to bridge that gap of where you are to where you need to be to gain proficiency in that particular capability. So they are the ones that can kind of recognize where your gaps are and coach you and skill you up, like provide you with assignments and tasks to skill you up and
Okay.
be ready. Yeah.
What are some what are some of the biggest opportunities do you think for the public service to latch on to improve the learning that happens in our organizations?
Hmm. I think the biggest opportunity right now that the public service can harness or leverage really is technology. I think that as a whole, the government or the public service really does have to make better use of the digital technologies that are out there and be able to connect into some of these learning platforms that are already in existence, such as the LinkedIn Learning and Harvard Manage Mentor, these kinds of learning platforms, because it's a whole variety of courses that is one low price. They get access to thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of different courses. And if the manager can pick and choose one of those courses that are already readily available on the platform and connect it with an employee's performance management agreement, I hate to say, or just a plan, a
Yeah.
performance management plan, and be able to express what the expectations are in that role, then, and be able to credential it or verify, certify the employee's capability on that front. I think we can really do that, and I think that's the way it's going to go. That's definitely the way of the future of modern learning, and how organizations can be like 100 times fold improve on their performance and workplace performance for sure.
Anything else other than shifting to digital that you think could be concrete next steps that we
Um,
could take?
well, I think from a human side, the very soft side of it, I think that managers and employees absolutely must be having weekly one-on-one conversations as a bare minimum to be able to provide that opportunity for both parties, both employees and managers, to discuss what the learning goals, career goals, the manager's expectations, where the organization is going, this kind of thing. And that conversation is open, that it's fluid, there's a trust established there, and there's that real opportunity for the manager to coach and mentor the employee.
Okay.
And I think, from both the hardware side and the software side, we definitely can be leveraging both aspects in order to get high performing and highly productive as a public service.
So let's say a manager comes to you, manager of anywhere between 10 to 30 people, and says, I want to improve the level of learning for my employees. What would be the top 3 universal advice you would give them?
A manager of 10 to 30 employees.
A manager of a team, yeah.
A manager of a team. First of all, I'd say reduce that team, because you're not being productive or effective as a manager if you're going to be managing a team of 30, because there's no way in the world you can have weekly one-on-one meetings with 30 people.
And let's assume there might be supervisors in that little structure.
Okay, in between.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want 3 concrete things that a manager can do right now to improve employee learning? Is that what you asked?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so first things first, be absolutely clear on what the organization's mandate is understand where your role as the manager, what your mandate is in fulfilling, what your role is in fulfilling that organization's mandate, and what you are going to do to leverage each and every one of your employees' strengths to bring you along to achieve that mandate, to accelerate your role in achieving that mandate. And one of the things is that you are going to have to start having one-on-one appointments, meetings, weekly one-on-one, 30 minutes at minimum appointments, meetings with your employees, and have these discussions. And the employee must absolutely be aware and know without a shadow of a doubt what their role is in that organization, what their tasks, if they know what their roles are and what their outcomes are, the results that they have to achieve, they're going to strive to that. They're going to work hard. They're going to define the tasks themselves. They're going to define what their jobs are to be able to excel in their role and meet their mandates.
Yeah. So strive for alignment.
Sorry?
Strive for alignment. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And stop being a talking head for like managers with employees. We have all of these wonderful words and values and rules and everything on paper, but we need to start demonstrating and making sure that our personal values are in line with our organizational values and goals. Because if they're not, I promise you, you're just not going to strive. You're not going to be at your best. You won't be in that position to have that passion, which will really fuel your learning and your performance on the job, and therefore also your employees' performance on the job. So alignment, yes, make sure that, and then the values and ethics and rules are also in line personally and organizationally, because if they're not, you got to find somewhere else where you can better fit in. And really, you want to make sure too that your employees have that same kind of passion for your vision or for the organization's vision, because if they do, they're going to be doing the right thing. They're going to make sure that they level up in their skills to be more capable and provide you as a manager with more, and be of higher value to you as a manager, and just be a source of leverage for. And that's the thing, is I don't think that managers right now leverage enough of their employees' strengths. So yeah, I really do think that if you can leverage, you have to delegate and leverage and get rid of this hierarchy, because a hierarchy does not fuel learning either. It does not spur on learning. It's it's very demotivating for employees.
Anything else that I haven't asked you about your knowledge of learning trends and the work that you've done that would be relevant in this discussion?
Well, I know you're a data man, Etienne, and I know that you love to be able to put data and numbers and use predictive hiring, I think, is your passion right now. And I think that once we can get to this place where we're able to connect learning activities and be able to translate those learning activities to performance on the job, we're going to be feeding into that data. And then that data is going to help managers and organizations make far better hiring decisions on credentialed capabilities and true skills certification, rather than a self-professed competency or capability.
Have you come across any examples where they've successfully been able to do that? Connect the data from learning activities with job performance?
This is where it's going, like all in the Josh Bersin Academy and the D2L with Deloitte. They have, I think, I forget what D2L is, but it is about learning activities, translating learning activities to performance on the job, and then credentialing those skills and those capabilities. Bringing back into our conversation this whole notion of modern learning, one of the things that modern learning emphasizes is that learning happens every day and every moment in every day.
Yeah.
And we need to get better at integrating our everyday activities where learning can take place and integrate it into our current knowledge, our current database of knowledge, as it were, and interpret it, synthesize it, and use it into our future activities, right?
Yes. So
Yeah, that would be
thank you very
great.
much for your time. And
Thank you. This was great. Thank you for the opportunity.